Saudi Arabia. Families fear imminent execution of loved ones amid surge in drug-related executions. Dozens of men on death row in Saudi Arabia for drug-related crimes are terrified for their lives amid a dramatic surge in executions for drug offenses in the country over recent months, Amnesty International said today, based on information from family members of detainees on death row. Between January and April 2025, the Saudi Arabian authorities executed at least 88 people, including 52 for drug-related crimes. This is a dramatic increase from 2024, which saw record executions, and when a total of 46 people were executed during the same period, none of them for drug-related crimes. Just this week, in one day on April 22, the Saudi press agency announced the execution of 3 people, 2 Saudi nationals for promoting hashish, and 1 Pakistani national for trafficking heroin. Despite Saudi Arabia's repeated claims that it is limiting its use of the death penalty for crimes not mandated under Sharia, the alarming surge in executions for drug-related offenses exposes the stark reality. Saudi Arabia is blatantly disregarding international law and standards, which restrict the use of the death penalty to only the most serious crimes involving intentional killing, said Christine Beckerel, Deputy Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa at Amnesty International. Saudi Arabia's authorities must immediately stop this execution spree, establish an official moratorium on all executions, and move towards abolishing the death penalty for all crimes. Saudi Arabia is blatantly disregarding international law and standards, which restrict the use of the death penalty to only the most serious crimes involving intentional killing. Pending these changes, Saudi Arabia must urgently revise its laws to eliminate provisions that allow for the death penalty to be imposed and ensure that any penal code adopted abolishes the death penalty, including for crimes that do not meet the threshold of most serious crimes under international standards such as drug-related offenses, and ensuring that all individuals have access to fair trials and adequate legal representation. While Saudi authorities do not publish or share figures of individuals on death row, arrests for drug-related offenses are routinely reported in state-aligned media, indicating that a large number of people are in detention and on death row for such offenses. In November 2024, prison authorities in Tabuk transferred 35 Egyptian nationals convicted of drug-related offenses to a single ward, a move widely feared to signal their impending executions. Since November 2024, at least 10 foreign nationals and 2 Saudi nationals have been executed for drug-related offenses in the same prison, raising fears of the imminent executions of the remaining men. In addition, as of March 2025, at least 44 Somali nationals, all men, are on death row in Nadran Prison, southwestern Saudi Arabia, for drug-related crimes, according to the Somali consulate in Saudi Arabia. On February 16, 2025, the Saudi Ministry of Interior announced an execution in Nadran of Mohammed Nur Hussein, a Somali national, for smuggling hashish, also raising fears for the fate of dozens of others on death row. One Egyptian man on death row told his family in April, "A few days ago, a Sudanese man was taken in the middle of the night as we were sleeping." Another deeply distressed family member told Amnesty International, "There is no time left to save them, time is running out." Following a pause between February 20 to April 6, a few weeks before and during Ramadan, executions resumed with alarming speed in April and have included a startling surge in drug-related executions of foreign nationals. Between the 6th and the 24th of April 2025, Saudi Arabia executed 22 individuals, more than 1 per day on average. Of these, 17 were foreign nationals from 8 Arab, Sub-Saharan African and Asian, including South Asian countries, all convicted of drug-related crimes. 3 Saudi nationals were also executed for drug-related offenses, while 3 other Saudi nationals were put to death for murder and terrorism-related charges. Grossly unfair trials. Amnesty International has documented a pattern of serious fair trial violations preceding executions, including of foreign nationals in Saudi Arabia. At least 5 Egyptian men currently held on death row were unable to afford legal representation due to financial constraints and were not provided with a court-appointed lawyer during investigation nor trial. In another case, also of an Egyptian national currently on death row, the individual had a court-appointed lawyer, but the lawyer failed to share crucial case information during the trial to support his defense. Several of the Egyptian nationals currently at risk of execution told their families and their judge that they were tortured during their interrogations to extract confessions. None of these torture complaints were investigated, according to court documents reviewed by Amnesty International, and the torture-tainted confessions used as evidence against them. Issam Shazli, an Egyptian national convicted and sentenced to death under Article 37 of the Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances Control Law in 2022, had no legal representation during his arrest and investigation. His family told Amnesty International that the court later appointed a legal representative to support his defense, but the lawyer was uncooperative and failed to inform them about crucial details including the possibility of clemency, the deadline to appeal, or when to expect the Supreme Court ruling. "We knew absolutely nothing because it's a foreign country and we don't know its laws. We expected the lawyer to inform us," they said. A Saudi court convicted Rami al-Najjar in 2019 of bringing controlled drugs into Saudi Arabia to sell in 8 grams of hashish for personal consumption, according to court documents analyzed by Amnesty International. He did not receive the support of an appointed lawyer. He told Amnesty International that during his appeal session, the judge said that he could not argue against his conviction because you don't have a lawyer. He submitted an appeal himself to the Supreme Judicial Council but received no response. Rami's family were finally able to appoint a lawyer in early 2025, but they said that, as of March 2025, the lawyer had not taken any action because he was waiting for updates in the case. They said, "I don't understand what updates other than Rami's imminent execution there need to be for the lawyer to reopen the case." Mohammed Ahmed Saad and Omar Ahmad Ibrahim were arrested in May 2017 and accused of trafficking the synthetic drug Captagon. They were detained incommunicado for a year and a half after arrest. They have been on death row for almost 8 years. Both men were denied access to legal representation and, according to court documents, confessed to the charge after being subjected to severe beatings. On October 9, 2019, the Court of Appeal upheld their death sentence. Background: Saudi Arabia has consistently been one of the world's countries with the highest number of recorded executions. In 2024, authorities announced the execution of 122 people for drug-related crimes, a significant proportion of the total 345 executions known to have been carried out that year. This sharp rise occurred after a nearly 3-year hiatus in such executions, following a moratorium announced by the Saudi Human Rights Commission in January 2021. Last year, Saudi Arabia was one of 4 countries known to have carried out executions for drug-related offenses. Amnesty International opposes the death penalty in all cases without exception, regardless of the nature or circumstances of the crime, guilt, innocence, or characteristics of the individual, or the method used by the state to carry out the execution.